Good morning, everybody, and once again, thank you for the invitation. Very proud to be here. Um, I'm going to talk about natural language processing and medical writing. I have one disclosure, if I may say, that my talk was conceptualized and composed by myself, not by a bot. Artificial intelligence is being used increasingly for assistance in medical writing. And as you already have heard, it's driven by advances in natural language processing and machine learning technologies with the creation of algorithms. And what is it based on? It's based on a large database where there's different patterns, different combinations of words that can be recognized by the system. And once there's a prompt, in other words, a word or a sequence of words, the following words are automatically put into the structured order. And this is because of the natural language processing system. There are many systems out there. I'm going to concentrate on ChatGPT. This was developed by a company called OpenAI, based in California, based, as we've heard, on generative pre-training transformer architecture, where there's a deep learning process to generate human-like text. It was trained on a database of conversational text of over 300 billion words and can create responses to user input or prompts in a conversational context. It's actually the most widely used generation for medical writing, at least, or parts of medical writing. And one year later, after its release, it had over 180 million users, 100 million per week, and an astronomical amount of visits per month. There are several versions out there, and the most widely used is GP 3.5 and 4. Possible uses are many. I've listed them here. Generating reports, summaries of medical research papers, and we'll talk about that. But also to create patient-specific medical information like discharge summaries and patient education materials. It can be used to assist in writing medical textbook guidelines, generate product labels for the industry, and create a lot of different tasks that we all do every day in our practice. But what about writing your research paper with it? Well, a couple of months ago with Des Winter, we put up a word of caution, and this was a needlepoint editorial in the British Journal of Surgery. We said there are advantages of using it for making common lexicons to communicate with the medical community, or even the general public, and to try to avoid confusion when different wording is used to explain the same disease, ambiguous terms. It also can be used to highlight low quality or controversial issues, save time for revisions and checks of manuscripts before submission in the medical writing process, and theoretically to detect and eliminate plagiarism and manipulated images in order to improve poor data display. But this is really a paradox because it is all based on things that exist. So I cannot understand how we can eliminate plagiarism. The problem is that I'm going to dance on a different leg. The artificial intelligence text writers cannot exhibit genuine creativity by definition because they're all coming from pre-established data and words and sequences. It cannot ensure accuracy without quality control, and we'll see what I mean by that in a few minutes. It cannot evaluate or appraise or criticize by itself. It is so-called intelligent, but it's only based on sequences and the tokens that we've just heard about. It cannot interpret data in a diversified clinical way when things change. It cannot make an on-spot decision and change its sequence. The algorithms are predetermined. So it cannot be used theoretically for a discussion or a peer review in the sense of medical writing. There are ethical issues and legal liabilities that have arisen, and authorship is strictly defined. We all know the Vancouver requirements for authorship. And it would be difficult for a artificial intelligence program to be accountable for all aspects of what has been written in the paper. More importantly, in my opinion, is the fact that artificial intelligence, at least today, makes errors. And even OpenAI acknowledges plausible sounding but incorrect or nonsensical answers. We'll talk about that in a while. A few months ago in the New York Times, there was an article, What Makes Artificial Intelligence Go Wrong? And they talked about something which is called hallucinations. And I'm going to spend a few minutes on what these hallucinations are. It's based on its reason why it exists is much of the data comes from sites that have not been peer-reviewed, and they come also from abstracts rather than the entire article. So there are, let's say, lay texts that have been introduced into this database, and we are interested in scientific integrity. And not all the information that is in there is based on scientific integrity. The large language models have their hallucinations. I'm going to talk about that. Now, one of them is the fabrication and errors in the bibliographic citations. And you can see that this ranges somewhere between 17 to 94% in different articles that have been published in aspects of scientific writing that are outside of medicine. This is annoying. And worse, it fabricates references. It doesn't admit that it doesn't know the reference. So it takes part of a reference and it makes up the rest. And this is 3 examples of 3 fabricated references that were not even cited in the body of the manuscript, but were in the reference list. So if you use that reference list, once again, you're going to be perpetuating an error that has been generated, and you just keep on perpetuating that error in your own scientific work. Sorry, can't move. All right. Here's another example of something that's wrong. The comments that come into the text that has been posed by ChatGPT sometimes goes into the text that you actually want to write. And if you don't carefully look at what's going on, you can have the chats come into the text. And here's an example. Here's another example. I'm very sorry, but I don't have access to real-time information. It was in the text, and it was left in there. The author did not take the time or the effort to change anything. He just left it in there. Another example. Here it is possible to rewrite the text. Here is a possible rewrite of the text. They were introduced into the text and published in the abstract. Now, I mean, let's be serious. Sorry, I can't get it working. Next slide. Can you help me? Okay. So this has undoubtedly led to a lot of rules and regulations that we have to set up. First of all, in our own mindset, but also in a regulatory aspect. Papers have been written starting in 2023. Editors of journals have gotten together to elaborate statements on the responsibility of the use of these technologies in scholarly or scientific journal publications. Okay, I'm trying to do it. They should not be listed as possible authors. Authors should be transparent about the use of them and indicate clearly that they have used them to write the paper that we're talking about. Editors and reviewers should not only rely on them for the analysis of the papers, and of course the editors and the writers retain final responsibility for what is put into these papers. Here's one example of surgery. Several journals got together in the ACS in November and talked about the rules that have to be elaborated. European Parliament also, I'm going to very quickly say that the European Parliament has over-generated text about that. The problem is that it has a lot of users, but 98% don't know how to use it properly. And it's become a hype. It's become an industrial hype, and we have to be very, very careful about it. So in summary, these general models are very powerful. They're likely here to stay, but the next innovation displaces them. The authors and scientists are ready to use it, but you have to be very careful and reanalyze it, reappraise it, and use it only properly. We need a watermark system also urgently to make sure that they don't inundate our populations. Artificial intelligence is like, yeah, it's a great invention, but you don't want it to get out of hand, like you see here in my last slide. Thank you for your attention.